All right. Greetings, everyone. So, in this episode, I'm going to be talking about buying Bitcoin or the Black Lotus. Now, Bitcoin has recently spiked up more than 34% from 7,500 and going back up to a close to $10,000. Now, there are things in this world that are equally as valuable as Bitcoin. So, in this episode, I'm just going to switch it up a little bit and I'm going to be discussing with you an alternative investment. And to be fair, Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, tokens are considered an alternative investment. But there are things that in this world have already accumulated in value and in fact has already grown in value. For example, comics, luxury watches, vintage cars, and of course, my personal collection of Magic the Gathering cards. Now, this collection has, I just recently started it. It was just probably February of this year. It's not a huge collection, but I just wanted to emphasize a few things. Now, obviously, the obvious price movement, right? I would have made more money buying into Bitcoin rather than into this collection. But I always believe in diversification, I always believe in moving into other asset classes just so that, I can have a little bit of a hedge and a little bit of risk management. So in this case, I'm going to be sharing with you why Magic the Gathering cards, right, have actually accumulated and actually grown in value pretty substantially. And it's still a very niche market. Not many people know about it. In fact, it's actually only for folks who are into trading card games. And yeah, I mean, this is just something that I've done back in the day when I was in secondary school. And now the game has actually taken a different form of its own. Not only are the cards are varying in different kinds of values, but they are actually well sought after by collectors and of course folks like myself who used to play the game. We have a certain attachment or nostalgia towards it. So I was asking myself, I've been in the Bitcoin space or the crypto space for almost 4 years now. And I asked myself, if I buy a digital currency, how attached am I going to be to that? Because at the end of the day, it's just digits on a phone, right? Or digits in your cold wallet. And yes, it can be life-changing income, especially if you buy it at certain points in the market. For example, if you had bought Bitcoin back in 2017, you would have already made 9x. And of course, naturally, in that same year, you could have made 20x just by buying Bitcoin at $1,000. Now, those are, that at that point of time, it was just pure euphoria. It was a one-off. But when I look at investments as a whole or building a portfolio, I also believe in sustainability. And there are practically very few things. Stocks are a very good example that have shown growth and sustainability for quite some time. Now, the Magic the Gathering space is pretty much like very nostalgic comics, for example, Marvel, Batman, DC, all these comics have actually grown in value and have become very, very sought after and become very, very rare. As we know, folks who are in Bitcoin know that there are only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoins. But the truth of the matter is, there's still going to be mining and the rewards are still going to be paid out all the way until 2140, right? Most of us will probably be dead by the time we watch this video. But if and when that happens, that will be where the true scarcity really applies, because there will be no more Bitcoins entering the system. Now, the cards that you are seeing right now, they are no longer in print. Okay, this is where the true scarcity comes in. So let me just give you a brief, overall introduction. So the Power Nines, this is from the collector's edition. There's only 9 to 10,000 in terms of copies. Okay, now the top ones that you see here, these are known as the alpha cards. These are only 1,100 each in the world. And now in terms of quality, you may not find the same exact condition. Now obviously cards are very dependent on the amount, or at least the value goes up, especially if you can find ones that are in great condition. Now the better the condition, the more pricey the card is. So for example, this is an Alpha Tiger, right? It's one of the cheaper versions, right, of the card. Back in the day, guys, this card was what, less than $10. Now, this game started in 1993. So if you were someone who obviously bought the card back then, right, and you played with this, there was no such thing as the sleeves that you see here. This is obviously to protect the card. Everyone who purchased the card just played them raw. Okay, so the fact that there are still great condition ones that are still available in the market, right, it's already very, very hard to come by. Okay, so this in itself is like a journey. It becomes very exciting to kind of acquire and come towards these, or at least be able to attain these pieces. Now, when I look at Bitcoin, it's not difficult to buy Bitcoin. Okay, it is not difficult to buy Bitcoin. I can either go to a friend or to an exchange, and I can easily just link up my bank account and I can buy Bitcoin. Now, obviously, people are saying there are people who have lost their Bitcoin over the years. They lost their private keys. Yeah, sure, all those things can be kind of validated, and maybe a certain extent certain amounts of Bitcoin will forever be lost and will never enter the system. That's true. But the fact that you can fractionalize one Bitcoin, that means there's a total of 8 decimal places. You cannot split this up. You can't tear this into 4 pieces and expect that the value becomes divided by 4. You cannot do that. You either own the whole piece or you don't own it at all. Okay, so just to kind of highlight, now what are the ones behind that? What are all these? What are all these? These are in the same, oh sorry, this is not. These are in the same edition. Now these are called revised. Now these are slightly less valuable, but these being less valuable doesn't mean that they are cheap. They are not by any means cheap compared to these folks, right? This is probably the same one, and this, and this copy, right? They look pretty much similar, but the values increase because of the different editions. Now, obviously this, let me just share with you, this is the very first edition of the game. So at that time, when they created this, they didn't think that this game would become a success. They didn't think that it would even last more than 2 years, let alone 25 years in the making. So this is very hard to come by. Then, because of that scarcity, that demand, they created the beta, which I do not have. There's an edition called beta, which is slightly curved. So let me try to see whether I can find a beta. Yes, okay, so this is beta, where you can see that the corners are a little bit more sharper. As you can see, these folks are a little bit rounder. Let me try to get a camera. So it's a little bit rounder. Yeah, there you go. So it's a little bit rounder. Okay. And this is a little bit sharper, if you notice. So this is 3x the supply. So this is about 1,100 pieces each. This is about 3,300. This is 3 times of that, so it's about 9,000, close to 10,000. And of course the revised, okay, this is the unlimited version. So this is about 3,300. This is about 10,000 pieces. And the last one, this is one of the most. So apparently, right, because revised had there was so much popularity in the game, this became the financial, the backing, the currency behind everything, right? For at least Magic the Gathering, because these are considered the dual lands. Okay, these are considered dual lands, and it's it's ever since then it has grown. So if you notice how the collection has grown and people start playing the game, right? They really use these as utility. These is like, if you don't have these, right, you can still function, you can still have fun, right? But the game becomes less efficient. Okay, you are not penalized for using the dual lands. Now the new dual lands that are being printed out, as in the modern formats or the standard formats, right? You can use certain dual lands, but it's gonna cost you something. That means there's gonna be you either lose a card or you're gonna be taking a life or something like that. But this is just absolutely like pure, it's free. You know, you put it down, you can immediately use it. So it's obviously in a game, right? But because of that, right, you must be wondering, Ryan, how much is this? Well, guys, if you go and just, Google revise tropical island, and you do a Google on alpha tropical island, you'll see that the difference is in price is really there. It's really crazy. So what about these, right? These are also from the reserve list, as they say. So all these are from a very famous artist called Mark, by Mark Zuck, right? The original painting. Now, why I like this card, right, is for the fact that the artwork is really nice. Okay, it's really nice. This is 1998. Okay, this is from 1998. If you can see, right? Yeah, 1993 to 1998. So obviously the format, or at least this expansion, came out in 1998. So these cards alone, right? Okay, these are very, very nostalgic pieces, right? And very iconic. So the main artwork, the one of one that was drawn by the artist, is worth six figures, guys. It's worth six figures. That means the original art piece is worth six figures. So when you talk about scarcity, right, you kind of have to look at it from that angle. Is it hard to attain? Is it hard to get, right? And if it's the harder it is to get, the more it will be worth over time, because it isn't something that it can be reprinted. You can't replicate this kind of stuff, right? And of course, naturally, if for those who are very new and you want to do grading, you want to look at more coveted pieces, right? There are graded cards like this, okay? So this is a graded Beta Underground C, okay? And this is a 9, it's a mint condition, at least by Beckett, okay? So this was not easy to come by, okay? It was not easy to come by. And if you look at the current running prices of eBay, this is actually worth a Bitcoin, okay? It's actually worth a Bitcoin. So that's how crazy a simple card like this can be. You must be thinking, Ryan, wow, you must be insane. Well, a lot of people who think that we're in crypto, who buy Bitcoin, we are insane too. So it's just a matter of what we human beings, right, feel are valuable, right? What we consider as valuable, and it becomes what kind of market, where is this value being transferred? So obviously, if I go to to Thailand, right, and I say, hey, can I exchange one Mox diamond for say a meal, right? The guy will look at me and probably like say, are you like joking? Do you actually have Thai baht, right? I can't take this and offer it to someone. But in the event that if I really need to if something happens to my home or whatever, right, I can at least bring this collection along, and I can obviously sell it off at whatever is the current market value, and I'll get some cash from it. That's a good thing also, if you think about it. So there are things that are going to be worth of value over time that you might want to consider other than the digital currency, because having just one asset class, right? By the way, it can be anything. It can be watches, it can be watches, it can be comic books. There are a lot of fun things that you can collect in this world that are going to be very enjoyable for you. Like for me, right, these are not just pieces of art. Okay, these are pieces of history. Okay, these are pieces of history that a lot of people don't understand. And when I kind of came back to it, right, it's not just about the money. It really isn't. It's really about the enjoyment of connecting and being able to play this game. It brought me so much joy to be able to just sit in front of someone and just have fun. And learned how to I relearned how to play the game. I was starting to interact with folks, and I found it very enjoyable. I think that's something that you can kind of do with crypto, but you can't be sitting in front of someone and showing off your balances, right? That's totally weird. It's like whipping out your dick and seeing whose dick is longer. But in this case, right, not only are we either collectors, but we're also players. We can have fun because it's a game, right? And yeah, sure, you can say that now there are blockchain games that you can interact with each other and trade virtual items and all that. I think as long as there's a certain level of interaction and a way of growing a community, right? That's where the value also becomes supported. And Magic the Gathering has been around for 25 years. And that's something very amazing in itself. Can you imagine a cardboard, stuff like this can be worth not only worth in actual monetary value, but the fact that it has lasted for 25 years is something that I cannot emphasize enough. And that's something that I hope that the whole crypto space will eventually evolve and find its niche as well. Because I know that there are certain companies that are going to do very, very well going forward in the future, and the tokens will be more valuable than you think compared to today's value. But that being said, there are also going to be many, many other companies that are not going to do very well and their tokens are not going to be worth anything. Just the same like the trading card game that are out there in the world. Ever since Magic the Gathering came out back in 1993, there were a lot of copies, right? There are a lot of copies, and the fact that copycats in the sense that they were also trying to get value. It's the same thing when Bitcoin became successful and Ethereum became successful. There were a lot of ICOs that came out, right? So everyone was trying to be the next big thing. Same thing when Magic the Gathering came out. There were a lot of other there were a lot of other trading card games that came out into the market, but eventually everyone died out. And in fact, a very popular company that is called Blizzard, right? Everybody knows Blizzard because of WoW, right? World of Warcraft, a lot of other Overwatch, so on and so forth, right? These are the newer games. But they came out with a trading card game that was almost about to eclipse the popularity of Magic the Gathering at one point. But it fizzled out. The community just wasn't as strong as Magic the Gathering. Now, obviously, there are a lot of internal circulations and a lot of other folks that were saying internally, as in the community. Sometimes there is a divergence because these are considered reserve list cards, and being that they are reserve list cards, they are not reprinted. So a lot of new players, younger players who cannot really afford to buy these cards, right? They feel that they are missing out on the action of having the fun or the availability of the folks who are able to own these cards, right? So that's something that has kind of split the community, right? And then when people say, hey, you're supposed to have inclusiveness, it's supposed to be a game, why can't you reprint them? But apparently because of that reserve list, right, that WotC or Wizards of the Coast has held by. And I think there are a lot of things that are involved in the undercurrents that are preventing the reprint. So because of that, right, newer and older versions, right, are eventually going to be printed out, and it's not the same. It's just not the same. So right now, where do I see this going forward? I think there's going to be a split in the market, right? It's just the same thing. When I see there's going to be a split in crypto as well, there's going to be the projects that are going to do extremely well and their tokens gradually grow in value and they eventually evolve and find use cases and utility in the world. And then you have this divergence of cryptocurrencies that will no longer exist. Same thing, right? The cards in this format, right, are always going to retain their value. They're always going to be worth something because there's just so much value that's already been pumped and invested into this level that it doesn't suddenly drop. So whatever that I've invested in the past 6 months, in fact, all of them have held value very, very well, guys. I think that's something that is very unique and very hard to find for now in crypto. You cannot say that whatever you put your money in 6 months ago is still the same value. That's really not entirely true. However, if you had placed your money into Bitcoin when it was $1,000, $500, $10, yes, you are already one of those folks. So for example, if you were someone who invested or bought Magic the Gathering cards and you kept your cards for at least 10 years or even at least 5 years, there's no way the prices are going to go back to that same value, right? Because of the scarcity, the fact that the game is continuously growing. And as folks like myself, when we were in secondary school, we didn't have much money, and we suddenly want to come back and revisit the game. We're willing to pay more just to get back what we couldn't get at that time. It's just basic human nature. Because right now you have the earning power, you're of a different status. You just want to relive that, right? Because why do we make so much money, right? We want to enjoy ourselves as well. We don't want to just be caught up in the rat race and be frustrated with our lives. We want to just have some fun. And I think that's kind of like why people also are able to sustain something. It has to mean something, right? And I hope that eventually, cryptocurrencies also will mean something to this world as well. Just how magic has also evolved and means something to a lot of people. Like the folks like right now who are not able to buy all this, it honestly, it really doesn't matter, because maybe whatever that is valuable to them now, and it may not seem like much, could eventually grow to the next level. You never know. It's very hard to tell. Like, for example, these cards, right? I mean, who the heck would have known that these will even be worth any value? This was less than $10, right? This, my goodness, this was like what, I don't know, like less than $5. This was same thing, right? Less than $10, less than $5 when it first came out. These are all worth nothing much. You would never think that these would be the current the prices that they have now. You would never have imagined that if you had held them for 20 years, just 10 years or 20 years, you would never have imagined the current value that these cards are worth. You would have never thought. So right now, if you think that I shouldn't be buying Bitcoin is already worth $7,000, I shouldn't be touching any more Bitcoins, it's ridiculous, you kind of want to think again. You really want to kind of think again, because that's when people lose sight of the vision or the goal, because they cannot think far, they cannot see far. And when I kind of came back to this, it kind of made me think that why didn't I just, even if I didn't have enough money, I could always just buy one at a time. I could just, every time when I save my pocket money, maybe once a week, once a month, I would just buy one. Even if I couldn't afford like having a whole stack that I have now, I could just buy one as a kid. And I could afford to play the game, so I obviously could have just saved enough money, but I wasn't financially savvy, neither did I think long-term enough. And honestly, no one would have thought that this would even last 25 years. No one would have. It's the same thing where the naysayers are always saying Bitcoin is going to die, Bitcoin is going to go out of value, all these, every single token is going to go to zero. No, it is not. There is just too much money invested into crypto as well. There's no freaking way that suddenly it will become zero. But yes, there are going to be failures in the market, just like there were failures in the trading card games. Just like, for example, you thought that, Blizzard trading card games were going to be worth something, but they are not. Apparently, Blizzard was way better at just doing online games. But right now, if we talk about the trading card game, this is still the king. These Magic the Gathering cards are still the king. And that's where the value is holding for now. And of course, naturally, 5-10 years down the road, you never know what will happen. Will it still be there? You never know. It's just the same thing. Will Amazon still be the kingpin of e-commerce, right? Will Facebook still be the king of social media? You never know, guys, because there could be something else bigger, better, that could overtake the market and really change the whole environment. But that's the risk we have to take when we look at things. Now, I hope that this episode was relatively fun. It's a little bit more visual than the usual stuff that I usually put out, but hey, sometimes we gotta switch it up a bit. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching the live stream and hope to see you in the next one. Bye.